Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Wednesday. Wednesday's live at 5. Boy, the day just went by in a blinding flash. It's 5 o'clock already. Thanks for jumping on this live stream. I'm going to play this little show intro, and I'll be back in a little bit.
Like my friend Anita Krishna in Canada, she worked for a global news or a big news network. She started to ask just regular questions. She's like, isn't that what we're supposed to be doing? We're a news organization. Isn't that what we do as a news organization? And she got fired for that, of course.
Crazy.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to this live stream, live at 5 on a Wednesday. Thank you to Jimmy Dore for saying that on the Joe Rogan show. I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan actually a little bit later on in this show. And if you're new to my channel, that is true. I worked for Global News for about 24 years. And then when I questioned the COVID narrative, I got fired. And I'm only recently learning that that you can't even say the C word on YouTube because they don't like it. And I think that's why other podcasters say the world event, which I actually am also going to talk about in this live stream. So I was going to talk about the budget, which I still am going to talk about, the budget that Carney refuses to table. And I'm also going to talk about summer jobs in this. Is your teenager trying to find a summer job? We'll talk about that. It's June, so it's June 4th today. It is Pride Month, and that's doing my head in already. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about Bono on Joe Rogan, and I'm going to end with a really funny kind of CNN thing. But first, let's start with a little bit of breaking news, because as I was preparing this show, lo and behold, we've had some breaking news from the NDP. They have voted against the throne speech, for goodness sake. They do not support the Liberals. And a lot of people are saying, I mean, could this be the thing that tanks the government? Like, will we go to an election because of this? I mean, the NDP has really sort of put their foot in. They've driven the nail in this sort of coffin, saying we do not support you. So 1.5 million people voted for the NDP, and the NDP are like, you didn't support it, your mandates, what you guys said in the throne speech, we do not support. So let's have a listen to what interim leader Don Davies had to say about this.
Country.
Okay.
We will be voting no against the throne speech and making sure that the interests of working people across this country are reflected, and we'll continue to fight for those measures that we know that so many millions of Canadians and working families need in this country. We will be voting no against the throne speech and making sure that the interests of working people across this country are reflected, and we'll continue to fight for those measures that we know that so many millions of Canadians and working families need in this country.
Okay, so I played that twice, and there are some comments of people saying, this is it. I mean, we could go to the polls again. I don't know if people have an appetite for that at this point. And if the Bloc, the Conservatives, the NDP are all against the Liberals, will this push a non-confidence? I mean, what is going to happen? I'd love to hear in the comments what you think. I mean, some people say that we don't have an appetite for going to the polls, but I think, I don't think, I mean, maybe not. I mean, maybe because the Liberals haven't proven themselves yet. You know how all the boomers and all the sort of lefties or whatever that got all upset about the Trump tariffs and everything, and they went and they voted for Carney. Have they had time yet to reflect on their decision? I don't think they've had enough time yet. They're probably still stuck in with, yes, we made the right decision. We still support Carney. I don't think enough, it's too soon. I don't think enough time has gone by. But if this government blows itself up by the way they are handling things, then fine, you deserve it. And whatever Canadian, whoever is going to vote and go to the polls, go to the polls then. Forget about this. Like, we have the appetite for it. We have the passion for it. So, I mean, give her if that's what it's going to be. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the budget, right? So Andrew Scheer brought forward a motion for the Liberals to produce a bloody budget, for goodness sake. And so 166 voted yay and 164 no. It was tight as. And I saw that on the comments, I think it was commons.com, all the list of the people that said no, and it was all liberal, 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 liberal. It's embarrassing. Are they not embarrassed of themselves, voting liberal the way, or voting no to transparency? It's shocking to me, actually. So I'm going to play this for you. This is from yesterday's.
Mr. Speaker, we take note of last night's motion. But what Canadian provinces deserve is a health care transfer. Is a transfer for child care. Is a transfer for dental care. Is a transfer to support affordability. That's what's in the main estimates, and we expect the support of members opposite.
The right honourable member for Edmonton West.
Mr. Speaker, I realize he's new here, but all those things would be in a budget if you table one. Mr. Speaker, this year alone, this government is going to spend a staggering $26 billion on high-priced, liberal-friendly consultants, an eye-watering $1,400 for every Canadian family. They'll present no budget, no departmental plans, and zero transparency. They won't even stand in this House and tell Canadians what the deficit will be this year. Will the Liberals come clean, table the spring budget as this House has demanded?
The right honourable Prime Minister.
Sorry, I'm just kidding. He's so smirky. He's just such a, so, he says, we take note of last night's motion, but what Canadians deserve, what Canadian provinces deserve, is a healthcare transfer, a transfer for childcare, a transfer for dental care, a transfer for support affordability. That's what's in the main estimates, and we expect the support of members opposite. That's what Carney said, question period, Tuesday. What does that mean? What does that mean exactly? A transfer? What does he mean by a transfer of? Like, I imagine that when he says these things, he chooses his words very carefully. So what is he getting at there? It's ominous in a way, isn't it? Like, I just don't know what his plans are. A transfer to who? A transfer to what? What are his plans? And he is so well connected to everything, to royalty, to the monarchy, to bankers, to investments, to leaders in other countries, to China, he is a very powerful person. I don't think Canadians know exactly what they've signed up for, and whatever his agenda is, I think he'll just make that happen. Carte blanche. He doesn't have to listen to anybody. These people, the government last week tabled main spending estimates worth nearly $487 billion, and MPs are required to vote on that, on those estimates, to keep the government running into the summer. How can you vote on something when you don't know where this money is going, where the transparency isn't there? It's shocking. So the Conservatives have said, you better, it's not a legal thing. That's why he doesn't have to listen. They've just sort of nudged him and urged him, and they're kind of, recommending that he brings it forth, but he doesn't have to do it. He doesn't have to do anything he doesn't want to do. And that's what I just find shocking. And also, I had put in a clip when I did a stream with the podcaster Portuguese Pie. I put in a clip of I always forget his name. Is it Ian Lee or something? But he was basically saying that it would take a day to figure out what the budget should be. They have all those numbers. Everything is digital. So whenever you hear anybody say it takes time, it does not take time. They have all those numbers at their fingertips. And if it does take time, don't take a summer break. How dare you take a summer break? You should all be embarrassed of yourself. You need to get back to work. But a lot of people have stood up in the House of Commons, and it's been more exciting than Netflix. I watched a speech from Aaron Gunn last night. That was quite riveting and very powerful. A lot of powerful speakers on the conservative side standing up with a lot to say, and some people that I'd never heard of before, particularly this one guy. His name is Matt Strauss. Now, he was a doctor and a professor, but he gave all that up to run for politics. And so he made in his speech yesterday, for the first time, he had a wife who nearly bled to death. Well, he still has the wife. She nearly bled to death during childbirth, and he had a hell of a time at the hospital. I mean, they were in one ER and they went off to another one, and he's that's his firsthand experience of what happened to him in the healthcare system here in Canada. So he spoke up quite a bit about that. But like I have always said, I lost my job as a director at Global News because we did not tell you the truth about the world event. And there were anchors, reporters, producers, no matter who I was begging to tell you how safe HCQ is as a medication, and to look into where this came from, and to start telling the other side of the story. For some reason, they all went nuts there and just could not tell you the other side of the story. And it really doesn't take a lot of people at the top to deceive all the people at the bottom. So there are a lot of people that work at Global News that are still like, well, we didn't know. We thought we were doing the right thing. Everything was so new. Of course, we're going to make mistakes. There were no mistakes being made. When the provincial health officer of BC, someone like Bonnie Henry, signs what is an infant act, declaring that an infant can consent to medical interventions, there are no mistakes being made. They didn't do this and go, oops. They have no idea how you turn DNA into mRNA and then put that in a vial to put in you. They are clueless about that. And it is incumbent upon them to look at that and report that to the public. They did not, nor did any mainstream channel. Well, this happened all across the world. It literally was the world event. But you can't seem to get people to even give a shit about it. Your normal friends, they just go, oh, it's over. It's over. So it was so refreshing to finally hear somebody like Matt Strauss talk about this. This clip is 2 minutes. It's a cut down. I want to play it for you.
The zenith of all this top-down control came during the pandemic. The members opposite went full communism. They locked Canadians down in their homes. They ruined weddings, funerals, Easters, proms, and Christmases. They closed the borders. They kept mothers from children and brothers from sisters. They deprived this House of its ancient rights. They spent $600 billion of taxpayer money with no budget, doubled our national debt to pay healthy 16-year-olds to sit in their basement. Then, as now, they did all this in the name of crisis management. Physicians, professors, and journalists who spoke out against these abuses were hunted down. They had their licenses and their jobs threatened. I know this because it happened to me. At Queen's University, where I taught, Jane Philpott herself, one of the only 2 cabinet ministers to speak truth to Justin Trudeau's power, informed me in her dean's office that the reason the administration had to harass me was that I criticized the government. That is a direct quote. Of course, the Prime Minister and his commissars were immune from all of this. He could attend gatherings of greater than 5 if it suited his political purposes, like a George Floyd protest in Ottawa, and he did. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals claimed onto themselves the power to censor the news, to violate free speech in the name of fighting misinformation, while they themselves promoted misinformation. They gave luxurious contracts to their friends in academia to promote their misinformation. They gave hundreds of millions of dollars to mainstream media to promote government narratives. These 3 institutions, government, media, and the academy, have important roles in society to regulate each other. But under the federal government's bribery scheme, they have ended up, like the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker, out to sea, stewing in each other's bathwater. When ordinary, everyday Canadians came here to Ottawa complaining that their charter rights to bodily autonomy, assembly, and free movement were being violated, every member of the Liberal caucus voted to trample their rights further. They violated Section 2 and Section 8 of the Charter in imposing the Emergencies Measures Act. It is not me saying that, but Justice Mosley of the Federal Court. They trampled on the charter rights they claimed to revere, and then they laughed about it. The current Minister of Transport, in particular, laughed about it, Mr. Speaker.
I hope you could hear that one okay. I know that the Carney clip was quite low, but then we really don't need to hear him anyway. But even when I was listening in my headphones, I'm like, oh my God, he's super low. So sorry about that. But anyway, that is Matt Strauss. I urge you to watch the whole 9 minutes and to watch some of the things that were being said. Andrew Lawton, who formerly worked at True North, who has interviewed me before, he gave a great speech too. So these conservatives are really holding the feet to the fire to these liberals. And I think the liberals are kind of like, damn, we didn't, they are coming full force because what have you got to lose? You've got nothing to lose and you've got your country to gain, right? So very refreshing to see what's going to happen in the House of Commons. I don't know what's going to happen. Do you think we're going to go back to the polls because of NDP? Do you think the NDP, by not supporting this throne speech, by not supporting the Liberals, do you think they're going to side with the Bloc and the Conservatives and they're going to form a coalition or something? Like, what the heck is going to happen, right? There's never a dull day around here. Anyway, the weather is beautiful. It's summertime. It's early June, and I have two teenage children, two boys. Right, I have a 19-year-old, and he has a job. He actually works with me. He's doing really well. Like he does a really good job and he works hard. And I have a younger son and he's 15. And I was driving him to school today and, he's 15 now. He can get a job. And he's like, you know what, Mom, maybe I think I'll get a summer job because, why not? Right. And I'm like, okay, like what, he has a very Caucasian sounding last name and maybe he should just put my last name on his resume because I don't know. This segment is going to sound really racist, but I am Indian, so I feel like I can say all these things. Like my older son, he's like, gosh, Mom, when you go into Tim Hortons and you go into Walmart, it's like, wow, like, how can I say this? You know what I'm trying to say, right? Like I saw a funny meme the other day that said Sing Hortons instead of Tim Hortons. And all I hear from my son and all I hear from parents and other people is that their teenage children are having such a hard time finding regular jobs. And it's summertime. This is the time you get a job flipping burgers, popping popcorn, maybe doing lifeguard work, working at summer camps. This is the time where your teenager is going to look for a job in an ice cream shop, in a tourist thing. And nobody can find jobs, not only just summer jobs, but even just regular jobs. I have a lot of people tell me this. I wonder what your experience is with this too. But my older son had a hell of a time finding a job. And it's like, what really is this all about? There's a lot of rumors, the temporary foreign workers, that they get subsidized, although I don't have like concrete information on that. So sometimes I think they do and I think they don't, right? And I don't know, it's a whole big thing. And some employers say they like to hire Indian people because they're hard workers, they don't complain, they're kind of reliable, they put up with stuff, which is true. Which is true. I'm that type of very hard worker. I lost my job as a director and I went and took jobs doing anything. I worked at a car dealership. I worked for a plumbing company, which I hated. And then I worked for a medical clinic, which is where I work now. And it's not really something I'm particularly even good at, but I just do it because I'm a hard worker and I pay the mortgage. And that's what I do. It's like, we are very hardworking people, but we're maybe a Canadian teenager might be like, maybe not as reliable, but that's not fair. And I don't know, some employers are saying that. But I found this story. This is from Global News. This is about teen summer jobs. So let's have a look what they have to say.
It is absolutely brutal out there.
It's a frustrating time for recent grads and students seeking summer employment.
When people get ghosted, right? When people are firing out 100, 200, 300, 400 cover letters and CVs and never really hearing back, it does start to color and characterize their relationship to work and pursuing work and their motivations.
As of early May, which is when summer hiring peaks, summer job postings were down 22% from a year earlier across Canada, according to job site Indeed. The number of companies hiring seasonal camp counselors down nearly 45%. Jobs like lifeguards, painters, and customer service representatives also down sharply. Tariff uncertainty has delayed hiring in almost every industry.
An employer right now can afford to be picky in hiring. They know plenty of applicants, really of all ages, are vying for each opening.
Hiring managers are watching every penny.
Retailers, especially those that rely on imported goods, they face higher costs. So the total hours of work are potentially going to be fewer than before.
Still, there's need among large retailers like big box stores.
Essential retail like grocery stores, pharmacy, general merchandise, they continue to hire and expand.
Across most industries, the outlook for the summer is grim.
Coming out of the pandemic, we were really in a job seekers market, but something turned around mid-2022, early 2023, and conditions have been moving in the wrong direction since.
Analysts worry we could see another lost generation, similar to debt-saddled millennials who struggled to find employment after the 2008 financial crisis.
I think we are going to scar this subset of the labor market quite early in a way that can be, again, dangerous and alienating.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, and so I asked Grok, okay, why do we see so many Indians working at like Walmart and Tim Hortons? That's very specific, but that's the question that I had. And so basically, I'll get to that answer, but in general, summer job listings are down 22% since last year to the worst level in decades. The combination of temporary foreign workers and trade uncertainty has ravaged the job market for Canadian youth, with 14.2% unemployed last year during the summer. Okay, so here's the Indian part that I asked. The significant presence of Indian workers at Walmart and Tim Hortons in Canada can be attributed to several factors, primarily driven by immigration patterns, economic conditions, and labor market dynamics. Here's a concise analysis based on available information. Okay, the surge in Indian immigration. Canada has seen a dramatic increase in immigration from India, particularly over the last decade. Between 2013 and 2023, Indian immigration to Canada rose by 326% from 32,828 to 139,715 annually. Okay, and you know, it said a lot more than that. But then I asked about subsidies, right? So employers hiring eligible students may receive a wage subsidy up to 50% of the wages to a maximum of $5,000 for each net new placement. I mean, the language is just blah, you know, it's a lot of blah, blah, blah. Or 70% of wages to a maximum of $7,000 for each net new placement, whatever that means. So basically, student work placement. Up to $5,000 basically for every student you hire through the program, and up to $7,000 for every student that you hire in their first year or under. And there's various criteria. So I guess, you know, employers in the private sector can apply for these subsidies, and away you go. I mean, I don't know. I would like to hear from some employers too. Like, what's it like out there? Are you finding dependable employees? How is it going for you? And what is this going to be like for my 15-year-old son looking for a job? He loves movies, so he's always wanted to work at the movie theater. Can he get a job at the movie theater? Can he get a job at IKEA? This is all pretty basic stuff. Can he get a job like at Canadian Tire? London Drugs? I know my older son's friend. He's a white kid with a very Caucasian sounding name. He put out so many resumes to London Drugs, to White Spot, to any place you could think of. And White Spot, the irony of that. And he couldn't get a job. He hasn't been hired, and he doesn't have a job. So it's not fair. Like, you know, it's like, I'm the child of immigrants, but I was born here, and my parents came here the bloody hard way. My dad came first, and then my mom came a year later. It's not like that anymore. It is just not like that anymore. Like the grants, the money, the benefits that are given to people who are set to come here, the immigration laws have been lax, and it's not fair. You have to look after Canadians first. It's Canadian kids first. Not to say that you don't treat immigrants kindly, but it has to be fair. The scale can't be tipped like this. right? It has to go the other way. Which brings me to, so I don't know, I'd love to hear your thoughts too. But this also brings me to something I was thinking. I did a live stream on Monday with Shadow Davis, who was at the ostrich farm. I think that I heard that the ostrich farm, the CFIA gave them a $20,000 fine for some reason. So I haven't looked into that, so I don't know all the information about that. But I did this interview with Katie from the farm also, and I asked her about RFK. I asked her about Dr. Oz. And so that that's in the live stream from Monday. So if you want to check that out, it was about 7 minutes in. If you want to see what she said, it was quite interesting. She says it's whatever it takes to save the lives of the ostriches. If they need to go to Florida, then fine. It's just that how do you transport them there? And you can't actually you'd be breaking rules, because if they're sick, you're not supposed to transport them, but they're not sick. So it was a whole thing. But yeah, where was I going? Oh yeah, I talked to Shadow Davis, and I was telling him that I went to the bank because I had a bank appointment, and all over the bank at every single teller station was the pride flag mixed in with the pink and brown, which I don't even want to believe is minor attracted person, because I can't even believe that we would have such a ridiculous thing, right? At the bank. But two things I'm thinking of. The guy who helped me with my mortgage was also an immigrant, and he was from Iran. And I said, so how's it going here? Like, how do you like it here? And he goes, oh, Canada has been so good to me. He said, it was so easy to come here. I got my education. Could bring my family here. I think he got some sort of government money to get on his feet. He got some money to go to school, I believe, and he's been working at the bank for 3 years now. And he was a good mortgage broker. Like I had no problem with him. He was a nice guy. But he said it was so easy to come here. And he says he has no complaints about Canada. So anyway, that's just on a side note. But at the bank, like I was saying, there's all these map flags everywhere, or whatever the heck this pride flag is with the new little bit in it, the pink and blue bit. And I just think, why do I have to celebrate this? Why does this have to be a thing? And it got me thinking, okay, the acronym is now LGBTQIA2S+. What the actual hell? So this acronym, it stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and trans, queer and questioning, intersex, asexual, or agender, and two-spirit. And the plus sign signifies additional identity terms. We are getting ridiculous, right? Like I told Shadow the other day, I stop at the L and the G. Lesbian and gay. If you're lesbian and gay, we support you. We love you. Like, have all the rights you want, get married, have a job. There should be no discrimination. In my entire life, born in the 70s. I grew up in the 80s, a young woman in the 90s. I faced racism when I was young, but I never saw anybody face gay discrimination. I mean, maybe they did, or maybe they were shy to say that they were gay. I know that could be a thing. But I knew my gay friends in junior high school and in high school. They were living their lives. They were just gay and they knew it. We didn't do any of this surgery, top surgery, bottom surgery, hormone replacements, hormone suppression. We didn't give anybody medication or drugs. We didn't make it so that you could go have a surgery or something and not tell your parents, because the government says that that's okay to not tell your parents. We didn't do any of those things. So I think that this should just stop at the L and the G. Why do I care if you're bisexual? Why do I have to celebrate you? Why do you get a whole month? And I know I sound like a grouchy old woman, but it's like, why do we do this? Why do we sexualize these things so much? Why do I care if you're queer? Why do I care if you're questioning or if you're two-spirit? Why do I literally have to give a shit if you're questioning your sexuality? I don't care. And I don't care what you do in your bedroom with who you love or who you don't love or whatever. I don't care. Do I want equal rights for lesbian and gay people? Yes. And that's it. And that's where it ends. Do I want equal rights for everybody? Yes. All Canadians? Yes. But preference to Canadians, right? Like that's it. I'm tired of this stuff that they used to teach my kid in grade 6. They'd say AFAB and AMAB. They'd write it on the whiteboard. AFAB, which means assigned female at birth, and AMAB, which is assigned male at birth. And they would tell the kids this. Stay out of that. Stay out of, don't do that. And certainly don't tell little children coming up about this bisexual questioning, intersex, all this stuff. And certainly going to these gay parades that are so highly sexualized, where the men are like wearing assless chaps and they're doing very sexual motions. I don't see how that's a family event. You want to have that parade, have it. You can be an adults only parade, but don't teach the kids this, because now you have this generation, which I think it's turning now. You got this generation of kids that are confused, and everybody is a they, and we have to accept everybody's pronouns and all that kind of thing. We're getting ridiculous. And I'm so glad, whether you like Trump or not, that he actually said there's 2 genders. That's all there is. That's all we're recognizing, to hell with the rest of this stuff. Anyway, that's my little rant about that. So we'll see what happens during Pride Month, see how ridiculous it gets. It's kind of off my radar a bit now because my kid is in high school and he says that they're not really pushing this stuff. Although sometimes he doesn't know who in his class is a male or female. Like, isn't that pretty basic? Isn't that something you should just know? But yeah, he doesn't know. Anyway, now moving on. Thank you for listening to me rant. I don't have a guest today. I just thought I would just talk to you, just spend some time with you, talking about some things that I find interesting. And now I don't know if you caught this. Let's see here. Joe Rogan and Bono. Oh, speaking of, one more thing I'm going to say. Let me go back to this. Another thing I just wanted to say about like my high school and stuff like that. When I was growing up, I don't know if you could relate to this. When I was growing up, we had Boy George. We had Adam Ant. We had Duran Duran, like Nick Rhodes from Duran Duran. We had David Bowie, Annie Lennox. Like all these people were totally androgynous. And we never thought anything of it. We never thought to ourselves take hormones. We just never made a big deal about it. Like if you were slightly effeminate and androgynous, whoopee ding. I don't even remember it being a thing. I remember looking at Boy George going, okay, this is weird. You're obviously, I guess maybe we thought he was a transvestite at the time, a man who likes to dress up as a woman, although that term has gone away. But nobody was gender confused. And that would have been one of the most confusing gender times, right? Like, like to have Adam Ant and everybody was Prince, even Prince was so fruity, like so feminine and stuff like that. So we had men that were slightly feminine. We had women that were maybe slightly masculine, like Chrissy Hynde and Annie Lennox. And it was just, you just took them as they were, right? You just took it as it were. And then we had manly men. We had like Sting, David Lee Roth, stuff like that. And Bono. This brings me to Bono. I'm going to talk a little bit about Bono on the Joe Rogan show. Now, Bono, obviously, his worldview is his worldview, right? He obviously is, and my worldview is my worldview, and that shapes your opinion and how you think about things. But he was very highly unimpressed with the cutting of USAID. And so a lot of podcasters went on to say that Joe Rogan destroyed him. Joe Rogan schooled him. I'm not sure that that's what happened. I don't think Joe Rogan did any of that. I don't think he did any of that. So I'm going to play this clip. I hope the audio is okay. I mean, I hope it's not too low. Okay. So
and that is rotting. Just recent report. It's not proven, but the surveillance enough suggests 300,000 people have already died from just this cut off, this hard cut of USAID. So there's food rotting in boats, in warehouses. There is this will fuck you off. You will not be happy. No American will. But there is, I think it's 50,000 tons of food that are stored in Djibouti, South Africa, Dubai, and wait for it, Houston, Texas. And that is rotting rather than going to Gaza, rather than going to Sudan, because the people who know the codes or for the warehouse are fired. They're gone. And so this, I don't know, what do you think? What is that? That's not America, is it?
Well, they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Right.
Right. This is the problem. The problem is, for sure, there have been a lot of organizations that do tremendous good all throughout the world. Also, for sure, it was a money laundering operation. For sure, there was no oversight. For sure, billions of dollars are missing. In fact, trillions that are unaccounted for, that were sent off into various, they don't even know where because there's no receipts. The way Elon Musk described it, he said if any of this was done by a public company, the company would be delisted and the executives would be in prison. But in the United States, this is standard. When Biden left office, when it was clear that Trump won, in the 73 days, they spent $93 billion from the Department of Energy on just radical loans, just throwing money into places.
Right.
And there's no oversight, no receipts. Like the whole thing is, there's a lot of fraud, a lot of money laundering.
Just recent report.
So, yeah, what do you think about that? I don't think Joe roasted him, and I'm not even sure, like, Joe knows a lot of things. I'm not even sure that maybe Joe even got that totally right either. Bono is literally saying that food is rotting and that amount of people are dying because somebody in America that got laid off and doesn't have the codes. No, that's not what it is. It's not that you need a code, right? This is like I think that perhaps the USAID, I think, helps corporations and the government be corrupt. They go into these countries. I mean, the answer to saving a country isn't to throw food on the doorstep. Although they need food, they need aid. But the answer is about the sovereignty of the country. The thing is, what's happening to Gaza? That's really the real question. USAID, I mean, is sort of like it's an avenue for maybe infiltration in a way. And I think, the Trump administration is like, we got to cut the things that you need to cut. That doesn't really mean cutting food. But, I don't really hear Bono denouncing the slaughter or the genocide of people. I hear him just criticizing cutting the funding to USAID. It's like, well, what was USAID doing? What exactly, like, you kind of think about these things. I think now that we all sort of know a little bit more now, it's like you think the Red Cross, you think of like whenever there's a big thing to raise money for something, are the people that need it getting the money? And, throwing food on the doorstep, yes, people need it. But also, shouldn't the money be going to sort of help industry, capitalism, farming in those countries? Because if you keep these countries impoverished, if they cannot farm their own food, if they cannot thrive, then what you have is migration. People leave the damn country and they want to come to good old Canada or whatever, good old USA, because USA is going to save you. Make your own country thrive. And so, in my lifetime, all I see is like celebrity concerts and fundraisers and things raising money for people, just like with the fires, the Pacific Palisade fires. There was a big concert to raise money. Did anybody get the money? I don't think they did. I think a lot of the money went to administration, went to lining the pockets of this, that, and other, and to other companies. And did the people actually get the money? Because human beings are charitable. Human beings want to help. And we will empty our pockets. We will give you food. We will help our neighbor. But if the people collecting the money don't give the money to the people that need it, that's a big problem. And if you have agencies that are working like the USAID, funding things, sort of funding, if it's funding sort of, destabilizing a nation, I'm not so sure that that's a good thing either. So I don't know. So Joe Rogan, he didn't actually like school him, because I think that's not Joe Rogan's approach. I think he's not there to argue. He's just there to have a conversation. He just kind of eases into things, because I think if you argue with someone, you'll lose them. And I don't think he wanted to lose them. But I mean, at least he kind of made Bono see a different side. I don't know. But that just shows, like, we do not get down with these celebrities nowadays. We look at people like Bono and we're like, we're not sure you get it. We look at people like Bruce Springsteen and we're like, what are you talking about now, right? What does this comment say here? Bono's own country is rotting from the immigration invasion, destruction of the Irish culture. Yes, Bono, the ultimate grifter. I think he just doesn't get it. Like, he just doesn't get it, like a lot of these celebrities, is just not in their worldview. Even bloody John Cleese doesn't get anything. He posts the most ridiculous things on Twitter. He's so Trump deranged. All the celebrities are completely Trump deranged. And it's like nobody, I liked U2 as a band. They weren't my favorite band, but I thought they wrote good songs, and he's a good singer, and maybe he should just stick to singing. I don't know. Okay. So, all right, one more thing before I leave you. I don't know if you guys watch, staying on the American vein, I don't know if you watch Tim Dillon. He's kind of funny, and then sometimes I watch him. I just think he's quite interesting. He's a comedian and a podcaster. He's been on Joe Rogan many times. He did this interview on CNN with this girl. Her name was Elle Reeve. And this whole interview, if you watch it, it is basically like Tim talking to his 20-year-old niece, trying to school her on things. But she's actually 40 years old. And the thing that struck me is that she's a correspondent for CNN. So I've lost my job at Global, but like CNN is hiring women like this to conduct interviews, who show up wearing what she's wearing to a proper interview that is shot well and lit well with professional cameras. They're not doing this on webcam. And this is the woman that CNN chose to hire. I don't know if they're trying to appeal to young people or dumb people or whatever, but this is basically just a little smidgen of Tim Dillon, the comedian, trying to educate this dingbat from CNN.
Something else related to that. So one comedian who was like kind of in that world,
yes.
Fox, etc. That I tried to interview, his manager told me that he wouldn't do an interview with me because Rogan would get mad at him for talking to CNN. And
that's untrue. That's completely insane.
Okay.
That's completely insane.
Okay.
That is completely nuts. He was afraid of you.
Oh, okay.
He thought you were going to come in and really rough him up or something. There's no such thing as Rogan would be mad at someone for talking. That's crazy.
Oh, well, that's good to hear. Okay.
No. That comedy, there's very, very successful comedians that are left of center comedians.
Like who?
I mean, what do you mean like who?
Just like
Chelsea Handler. I think John Mulaney, probably. I think that you would find Sarah Silverman. I think Bill Burr, Louis C.K. Is there this idea that like they're not around or you can't find them? That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
No. But there's not this
great.
Cultural energy around.
They're not all as big as they were because I think careers go up and down.
Okay, but all those people who had the kind of like left-wing shows like Amy Schumer and Michelle Wolf, Samantha Bee, those have all been canceled. All those shows are canceled.
Well, but there'll be new ones. I mean, do you not have the faith? Do you think there's going to be no left-wing comedy?
I don't see like a little ecosystem or like a galaxy. I mean, you might dispute this, but like in the sort of right of center,
there's a galaxy
world,
there's
right?
An establishment.
I just thought that was ridiculous. That's the woman that they sent to interview. Like, and she's so breathy and flaky, and like she's done a couple of edibles or something like that. Like this is where CNN is at. No wonder their ratings are going down the toilet, and all the podcasters are just just beating them like crazy. I mean, because this is the product. This is the person. She's done other interviews too on CNN, but this one just struck me as so bizarre that she'd be the choice. But anyway, thank you for joining me on this Wednesday live stream today. I try to be mindful of your time and go. I was going to go around half an hour, but it's I'm going to wrap it up in a few seconds. If you like my channel, if you want to see more of me, subscribe. I'm going to try and do a live stream every Wednesday. If there's a guest you'd like me to get, I'll try and get them. I've got a lot of guests that I should be reaching out to, and a lot of great people. I think the nice thing, somebody wrote a nice comment about me getting fired, and it has been a blessing. It has been a blessing. I can do what I want to do. I couldn't work there anymore, especially doing the political stuff now would just drive me crazy. But at least that's not technically actually really physically harming somebody. What we were doing during the world event was causing a great deal of harm to people and breaking up families and things like that. And I got a line, and that was my line. And when we chose not to tell you the truth, before I even could blink twice, they had fired me because they knew how outspoken I was. I came to work every day and said what I had to say. So I should go down to Global with a camera and just start talking to people and see what they say. I don't know. That would be interesting, wouldn't it? Thank you all for watching. Elbows down. Thanks for joining me on this stream. And it's so nice to read your comments and to feel all your love and support. It's wonderful. I'm going to catch you next Wednesday. Thanks again.